Awesome. Can you guys hear me? Beautiful. I just got a new camera and a new microphone. My name is Kevin Olson. I'm a recovered alcoholic. I couldn't be more pleased to be here. I just love it, man. I just love it. It's like the passion of my life, sharing this stuff with you fine folks and sharing with you what I've been given and what I have been taught and what I have learned. And I've been taught and I've learned a lot about step 5. So I'm really pleased to be here. Before I get any further into the talk, I would like to, and anyone who attends the Big Book study or knows me at all, knows how we're going to begin. Everybody put one hand up like this. Everybody put another hand up like this. Everybody go, oh yeah. Look at the smiles. That's the best part. The best part is the smiles of doing that. I started doing that. There you go, Barbara. I started doing that years ago. Well, you know, when COVID first started, man, and I don't know, I'm going to have fun tonight. I hope you guys have fun. I am going to. You don't have to. It's not required, but it's highly recommended. So thanks to Steve for inviting me to do this. You know, we share our experience, strength, and hope. And I can tell you that I've got a lot of experience with step 5, like a lot of experience with step 5. And as a result of my experiences with step 5 today, I have strength and hope. And that's a beautiful thing. And certainly anyone who knows, you know, in the Big Book study that we do, I talk about Chuck Chamberlain, you know, talks about the transition that we need to make in Alcoholics Anonymous from being takers to being givers. Okay, that's the transition that I needed to make between step 1 to step 12. I come to AA, and all I know about is taking. I don't know about you guys, but as an alcoholic, as a drug addict, when I was out there on the streets, I had to take to survive. That's it. Okay. And I come to Alcoholics Anonymous, and I've got the same mentality. I had the same mentality, right? I was a something for nothing guy when I got here, you know, because my whole life had been, you know, front me the dope and I'll pay you later. Give me the bottle and put it on my tab. And I come to AA and think it's going to be the same. And you know, it doesn't quite work that way. I can't jive my way into recovery. I can't jive God. I can't run game on God. There were things here that I had to do. I had to do these things. And little by little, through the process of this 12-step program of action, little by little, I began to make that transition from being a taker to a giver. And so, you know, guys, I want you to know, like, I am so deeply, profoundly grateful for the men in my life, the members of Alcoholics Anonymous, who took the time to listen to my first 5th steps. I'm really proud to say, I'm pleased to say it's 21 years since I've done, you know, the first step 5 that I did. And I'm going out for lunch for dinner tomorrow night with that man. His name is David. And it's his 65th birthday. And we're going out for his birthday. And I can't thank that man enough. And I know, you know, that I look at my life in terms of having done step 5 as like what I did. There was really, it was a watershed, like a turning point experience in my life. There was the time in my life before doing that step 5, and there was the time in my life after doing that 5th step, man. And nothing was really ever the same after that. And I'm going to talk about that. We're going to read the book. I hope you all brought your book, because we're going to read the book. That's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to read through step 5 in the Big Book. Okay. And I'm going to try to add some color on it. Probably, you know, more than I typically would in the Monday night Big Book study, but or Tuesday night. It's Tuesday nights now. I've called it the Monday night Big Book study. It's been the Monday night for like 14 years, and we just moved it to Tuesday, so it's hard to remember. But we're going to talk through this, and I'm going to let you guys know what my experience was with step 5. I have since done dozens of step 5s of my own. You know, our 12 and 12 in step 10 talks about the 3 types of inventory that we'll take. There's the spot check inventory, the daily or nightly inventory, which is great and super important, and that is step 10. But then they also talk about going in for annual or semi-annual house cleaning. Okay, most of us, it says, go in for an annual or semi-annual house cleaning. Well, what does that mean? That means, you know, semantics, if you want to, whatever you want to call it. I'm doing another step 4 and 5 with my sponsor. You know, I did a new 4 and 5 with my sponsor, Daryl, probably about 3 weeks ago. Why? Because it was getting dusty in the attic, man. I'll tell you why. That's exactly why. Okay. Now, some folks in Alcoholics Anonymous, I have heard in meetings, people say, no, you do 1, 4, and 5, and that's it. The rest should be done with just constant maintenance, right? And it's like, well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the house, the analogy of cleaning house. Okay. Let's use the analogy of cleaning house. Do I clean the dishes in my house every day? Yes. Do I make the bed every day? Yes. Do I take out the garbage regularly? Yes. This is regular maintenance. Okay. But let me ask you a question. Do I wash the windows in my house every day? No. No. I don't know about you guys, but I don't wash the windows every day. How often do we wash the windows? Probably about once a year, maybe every spring. We get together and we wash the windows of our house, right? What happens if we don't wash the windows? What gets blocked out? Sunlight of the Spirit, baby. Sunlight of the Spirit, okay? That's the way I think about it. There are things that I do with daily maintenance all the time, but every once in a while, man, I gotta do a big clean, okay? A big clean. Most people do it once a year, maybe twice a year. Okay, you do the big clean, the big spring clean. We've all heard this before. So I'm just using the house cleaning analogy. Okay. And so when I hear people say that, I think about the house cleaning analogy. And really my go-to is if I can't find it in the literature, or I know something in either the big book or the 12 and 12 that is in deference to what I heard in a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, I disregard it. Okay. So what my book says is that there's spot check inventory, daily or nightly inventory, and then there's the annual or semi-annual house cleaning, which means if I want to stay well, notice I didn't stay sober, okay? Because I know a lot of people who stay sober in AA that are not well. And I don't say that, God knows I have been one of them, okay? My experience, if I want to stay well, by which I mean happy and contented and kind and peaceful in my life, okay, and joyous and ambitious and have motivation and enthusiasm, man, I got to clear away the things in myself that have been blocking me from the sunlight of that Spirit. I got to wash those windows, okay? So that's my personal experience in step 5, and I'm going to talk more in depth about this as well as we read through. But I want you guys to know that I'm also very, very privileged and grateful to say that I'm of the vantage point where I have received, as I say, probably somewhere, I'm guessing, guys, in the neighborhood, I lost count a long time ago, but between like 150 to 200 fifth steps that I've listened to in my life, that I've received from another alcoholic. And let me tell you, man, one of my favorite speakers, Keith D from California, talks about if you've not received a fifth step before, if you've never sat and listened to a fifth step, then you have not come full circle. And I'll share with that some of that with you guys as we go. So anyway, let's go into chapter 6, into action, page 72. Notice the title. Notice the title, man. Okay, it doesn't say into thinking. It doesn't say into feeling. It certainly doesn't say into meetings. Okay, it says into action. Okay, now other people may debate, like, no, every step 1 there's action, step 2 there's action, and like, you know, I don't disagree with that, but the fact is, this is really the first time where the actions are asking me to go engage with another human being. Okay, typically steps 1, 2, 3. I mean, at my home group, we take step 3 as a group. When a guy takes step 3 at my group, we get together in a circle, we all get down on our knees, we support that person, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. Step 4 could be done solitary. Okay, and then step 5, this is the first time it's asked me to actually go out into the world with someone else. Because the thing with step 5 is like, this is the time, you know, steps 1, 2, and 3, it's like, you know, I get kind of reconciled with God, that there is a God, and I'm going to move that direction. I'm going to put God first in my life. I'm going to make an inventory of the things that are blocking me. And now I'm going to get right with you. Okay. Now I'm going to get right with the world, and I'm going to get straight with God about what's really going on in here. Okay. Steps 6 and 7, we ask God to remove that stuff. And then steps 8 and 9, we begin to go out and clean up the things out there that I'm going to clean up. What was in here that spilled out there, I'm going to go clean that up. And that's really what it's about, man. And one of the things I like to say about AA is, like, I know you get here. Is anybody, just show of hands, just out of curiosity, does anyone here who's new, by the way? Is there anyone who's never done a step 5? Never done a step 5 before? Never done a step 5. David, okay, and Amy. Anyone else? Beth. Oh, this is awesome. Barbara. Awesome. That's great. That's great. I'm excited for you. I'm excited for you. Okay, because I know what my life was like before step 5, and I know what it's like today. Okay, and I'm excited for you. What's possible? What can happen for you after dislodging this stuff? Because, like what I'd like to say, I'll follow up with that in AA, is that AA does not ask me to stop drinking and then we'll teach you how to live with the mess that you've made of your life. That's not AA. In AA, yes, we physically stop drinking, and now we will help you to clean up the mess. Okay? We are going to clean up the mess of your life, and you have no idea, guys. Part of the reason why I do so much, like, of my own inventory 5th step work still to this day is because my house, God willing, is like really spotless. And I can't stand it if there's a little bit of a mess, like anything. Whereas it used to be, my life was a landfill, dude. Okay, my life was an outhouse when I got to AA. Okay, and now it's very clean, and I don't like any mess inside of it. So I like to keep it really, really clean. So anyway, guys, let's go to page now. So we read the title, Into Action. So it says, having made our personal inventory, which is that we did step 4, what shall we do about it? We've been trying to get a new attitude, new relationship with our Creator, and to discover the obstacles in our path. We've admitted certain defects. We have ascertained in a rough way what the trouble is. We have put our finger on the weak items in our personal inventory. Now these are about to be cast out. This requires action on our part, which when completed will mean that we have admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our defects. This brings us to the 5th step of the program of recovery mentioned in the preceding chapter. Okay? So guys, when we read this, we're going to read through the book. I want you to always remember the context, okay, of the big book. Always remember, April 10th, 1939, big book goes out in the world, okay? And the message of Alcoholics Anonymous, one of the things that was really blew me away was when I began to understand how the message of Alcoholics Anonymous was transmitted around the world, okay? Because when I started going to meetings, when I was physically separated from alcohol February 18th, 2001. Okay. Now, when I started attending AA meetings, there was just meetings everywhere. You just went to meetings and that's what you did. Right. And I had to understand, like, in 1939, wasn't that way, man. 1939, there was 100 sober members, and they were all of the Alcoholics Anonymous members in the world were either in Akron, Ohio, or New York City. That's it. So they wrote this book, and copies of this book started to go out around the world. Copies of this book would land in Chicago, or a copy of this book would land in Los Angeles. For us in Canada, a copy of this book landed. The first AA meetings in Canada were in a place called Winnipeg. I don't know if you've ever heard of Winnipeg. It probably that sounds funny. But always remember, guys, okay, and I always try to read the big book in this context. Imagine that you are a person by yourself in the world somewhere reading this book. Okay, so always remember these suggestions, and I'm going to talk about the suggestions that they make in here, and then how we can kind of reconcile those for ourselves in 2022 Alcoholics Anonymous. Okay, you guys with me on that? So there's some subtle changes that we can make for ourselves in 2022, always on the foundation of the big book. Okay, so it says this is perhaps difficult, especially discussing our defects with another person. You know, if you read the early work of the Oxford group, where we got the steps from, I mean, they're quite clear. They call it confession. It's confession. That's what they did. Okay, and that, guys, is not some big spiritual epiphany. Okay, this is very, very broad brush spiritual action. The idea of doing confession. I mean, there's nothing revolutionary there. Okay, these are general actions common to most denominations of religion. okay? And we are not a religious organization at all, okay? I get that. Nobody freak out, okay? Don't freak out on me that I use the R word, okay? We're not religious. It's God of our own understanding, but we took the same actions, okay? We took the same actions that they did, okay? And one of them is confession, and that's what we do, okay? Step 4, there's more to it, but we essentially write out our garbage, okay? Step 5, we go share it with someone else, okay? And we let God and another person, which represents the rest of humanity, understand and see everything that's been going on in here and everything that's been going on in here, okay? And guys, I mean, you know, we all, raise your hand if you've ever heard the saying, the truth shall set you free. Anybody ever heard that phrase before? Okay, so this is nothing uncommon to you. You know this, we know this, okay? But like it says, this is perhaps difficult, okay? It says we think we have done well in admitting these things to ourselves, which is in step 4. There is doubt about that. In actual practice, we usually find, and guys, I want you, please, if you're here and you're new, I want you to underline, man, this next phrase is so key for me to remember. It's so essential in my understanding of Alcoholics Anonymous, why we do what we do. Solitary self-appraisal is insufficient, okay? That means me looking at me on my own ain't enough, because between me and me is a whole web of selfishness and self-centeredness and rationalizations and delusions, and you don't understand. I had trauma. This is why. Anybody here, raise your hand if you have trauma. Anybody? Probably everyone in the room will put their hand up, right? I get it. Okay, I get it. I get trauma. I understand. Okay, but the problem is I will tend to take trauma and warp it in my alcoholic mind into another word that sounds a lot like trauma. It rhymes with trauma for me, and I'm just, maybe you'll identify with this, maybe you won't, and that's okay. For me, I was able to warp that trauma into drama. Okay, I would warp it into drama, and I would get crazy about this stuff. And that was me in my own perception, looking at it in my own perception. My perception of myself is terrible, terrible. Okay, my perception of reality is terrible. This is why step 5. So step 4 is great. Step 4 is a great tool to sit down and begin to unpack these things. My favorite analogy for step 4 is it's imagine if you had a dryer on spin cycle, okay? And you're trying to see what clothes are in there. You guys understand what I'm talking about, right? And you're just like, what clothes are going on with it? That's what it's like in my head, man. Okay, so what we're doing in step 4, I'm opening that up. I'm taking it all out. I'm laying it out so I can see what's really in there, okay? The problem is I still think that some things in there are fashionable when they've gone way out of fashion. And I need someone else to look and tell me what's working and what's not working. You guys with me on that? And that's really what we're doing in step 5. We're just taking the stuff up here as best as I can see it. And God knows it's a hard thing and points to anyone. Are you guys, Beth and Amy and Barbara, anybody, are you guys working on your step 4 right now? Oh, I love it. Love it. Keep working. Just keep trudging, man. Just keep moving through it. I tell my sponsees minimum 10 minutes a day. When I'm doing my own, that's what I do. I set a timer and I tell myself 10 minutes a day, okay? Because the worst thing is to get bogged down in the middle of it. I've seen so many dudes get drunk, and gals for that matter, because they get bogged down in the middle. And then here's what happens to me. I stop doing it. I'll stop doing it, and then I'll start to feel guilty, and I'll start to think I'm a bad AA, and I'll start to drift away from my sponsor, and I'll stop drifting away from my home group, and I'll start lying to myself and telling myself, you know, this thing doesn't work, and I don't really want to be a part of that stupid AA anyway, and on and on and on. Next thing you know, I'm in a bar, man. Okay, 10 minutes a day, just 10 minutes a day, just a little bit, just make a little bit of progress. And man, I can't tell you the joy that I feel at the end of the day when I'm like, you know what? Today could have been a mess. It could have been a disaster. But man, I did my 10 minutes. I did my 10 minutes on my step 4, man. And no one can take that away from me. My sponsor, David, the guy I'm having dinner with tomorrow night, told me, Kevin, if you want to have self-esteem, you have to do esteemable things. Okay? That's a little thing. I'm going to do 10 minutes, man. 10 minutes in that step 4 every day. Anyone can do step 10 minutes. That's easy. Most of the time I'll do the 10 minutes. It flies by. When I get done, I'm like, man, that was pretty fun anyway. And it's flowing and I want to keep going, right? Other times, don't get me wrong, there's times that 10 minutes, I'm like pulling teeth out of my own head to sit there and do it. But man, I did it. I did it. And no one can take that away. I did my 10 minutes. So I recommend that, okay? Keep trudging through. It's brilliant that you guys are all on your step 4. I love it. So it says here, so solitary self-appraisal insufficient. Many of us thought it necessary to go much further. We will be more reconciled discussing ourselves with another person when we see good reasons why we should do so. The best reason first. If we skip this vital step, we may not overcome drinking. Check yourself before you wreck yourself, okay? If we skip this vital step, we may not overcome drinking. There are only 2 parts, 2 places in the book where it says if you fall down on this, you're likely to get drunk again. One is if we don't change our character in terms of our sex conduct in step 4, okay? It says we are it says we are not theorizing. These are facts out of our experience. We are quite sure to drink, okay? And here, skipping step 5, you're quite sure to drink again, okay? There's only 2 places in the book where it says that. And this is one of them. So I need to be mindful of that. Time after time, newcomers have tried to keep to themselves certain facts about their lives. Trying to avoid this humbling experience, they have turned to easier methods. Almost invariably, they got drunk. Having persevered with the rest of the program, which usually means they came in, did steps 1, 2, and 3, and then just got super busy in step 12. Okay, just got busy and active in service work. They wondered why they fell. We think the reason is they never completed their house cleaning. They took inventory all right, but they hung on to some of the worst items in stock. They only thought they had lost their egoism and fear. They only thought they had humbled themselves, but they had not learned enough of humility, fearlessness, and honesty in the sense which we find it necessary until they told someone else all their life story, okay? So it says their life story, okay? But we're not reading our life story. God forbid anyone would ever read my life story. It would not be very interesting, okay? What we need to do is I read functionally that step 4 to someone, okay? And we're going to talk about how to select the person that we're going to do our step 5 with, okay? How I selected mine and how I recommend that you guys select yours, okay? Based on my experience anyway. So we're not reading our life story. We're reading our step 4 to someone else, okay? Is functionally what we're going to do. So that's something to be mindful of when you're writing out your step 4 and you're like, oh, my penmanship is so bad and I hate handwriting, okay? I think it's super important to do step 4 handwritten, okay? And I know others feel the same way, that there is something for us. I know Bill Ward last Friday was talking about the same thing. Psychologically, pen to paper, man. There's something psychologically that happens with us that doesn't happen on a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet, okay? And I have sponsees all the time asking me, and my answer is like, there's no AA police, okay? You're not going to get arrested if you choose to do it that way. But in my experience, pen to paper that's it. That's it. Okay. There's something that happens when we're pouring it out. People say my handwriting's so bad, no one will be able to read it. Man, I hope for you that nobody ever reads this. There's only one person that's supposed to get this, and that is the person that we're going to do our 5th step with. Okay. And you get to read it to them. So don't worry about your handwriting. Okay. So more than most people, the alcoholic leads double life. He is very much the actor. To the outer world, he represents his stage character. This is the one he likes his fellows to see. He wants to enjoy a certain reputation, but knows in his heart he doesn't deserve it. Okay? I'm not even going to comment on that. I mean, that is so beautifully written. That is like poetry. That is poetry for an alcoholic like me. That nails me to the wall. That is who I was. And guys, I'm going to tell you, that is who I can still be. If I let things accumulate, if I let my life start to get dirty, I start doing things. One of my first sponsors used to say, like, I can't do bad and feel good. If I'm doing bad, I'm going to feel bad. Okay. And I'm going to begin to feel like this actor who wants to enjoy a certain reputation, but I know I don't deserve it. It says the inconsistency is made worse by the things done on his sprees. Coming to his senses, he is revolted. I love that word. Revolted At certain episodes, he vaguely remembers. These memories are a nightmare. Man, I don't know about you, man. I used to wake up drunk. I used to shake up drunk, like shake up. You guys know what I mean? Like I'd have the tremors and I just start thinking about the night before. And then like, what a nightmare. I can't believe I did that. I'm so humiliated. You know, what I could remember of it anyway. I remember exactly. This nails me to the wall. He trembles to think someone might have observed him. As fast as he can, he pushes these memories far inside himself. He hopes they will never see the light of day. He's under constant fear and tension. That makes for more drinking. Psychologists are inclined to agree with us. We've spent thousands of dollars for examinations. We know but few instances where we have given these doctors a fair break. We have seldom told them the whole truth, nor have we followed their advice. Unwilling to be honest with these sympathetic men, we were honest with no one else. Small wonder many in the medical profession have a low opinion of alcoholics and their chance for recovery. Man, as some of you know, anyone that's heard my story, my mom is a therapist, for God's sakes. Okay, I had a therapist at the dining room table every day of my life, my entire life. Not one time did I tell that dear darling woman the truth. Okay, and I rotated between therapists all over the place. Okay, and never did I tell them the truth, not the whole truth. You know what, and I want to share this with you guys as well. That's because that's what it says. We have seldom told them the whole truth. Okay, and alcoholics of my type, like guys like me, I have a real problem with this idea of the whole truth. Okay, there's only one thing that is more dangerous than a lie. Okay, because the thing about a lie, if I tell a lie, a straight, cold, hard lie, that can be cleaned up by just telling the truth. Okay, I can clean it up, just tell the truth. There's one thing that is way worse than a lie. You know what it is? It's a half-truth. It's a half-truth. And alcoholics are the grand imperial champions of telling half-truths. Okay, so we are not telling half-truths anymore in step 5. This is our first time, our first real opportunity to tell the whole truth to someone about who and what we've really been. Okay, we must be entirely honest with somebody if we expect to live long or happily in this world. Rightly and naturally, we think well before choosing the person or the persons to whom we take this intimate and confidential step. Those of us belonging to a religious denomination which requires confession must, and of course will, want to go to the properly appointed authority whose duty it is to receive it. Though we have no religious connection, we may still do well to talk with someone ordained by an established religion. We often find such a person quick to see and understand our problem. We, of course, we sometimes encounter people who do not understand alcoholics. Okay. Now it's going to give us a little bit more description on who we might want to choose, and then I'm going to make some caveats to what they say here in the book. Okay. So now it says, we cannot or would not rather do this. We search our acquaintance for a closed mouth, understanding friend. Perhaps our doctor or psychologist will be the person. It may be one of our own family, but we cannot disclose anything to our wives or parents which would hurt them and make them unhappy. We have no right to save our skin at another person's expense. Such parts of our story we tell to someone who will understand, yet be unaffected. The rule is we must be hard on ourselves, but always considerate of others. Okay, back to April 10th, 1939. Okay, April 10th, 1939, this book goes out in the world. You are one person sitting alone in I don't know, Guerneville, California, say, for example. Okay, you're one person sitting alone in Guerneville, California, or Sarasota, Florida, or Arizona, or I'm just looking around the room. Okay, you're one person sitting alone, okay, with a copy of this book. There are no other recovered alcoholics around you, okay, yet. And the way that Alcoholics Anonymous grew is that people got a copy of this book and did what was in this book and got well. 50 to 75% success rates in the early days of Alcoholics Anonymous, when Alcoholics Anonymous was this book and nothing else. 50 to 75% recovery rates. Then, in order to stay well, what did they have to do? They had to go carry the message to other people. They carried the message to other people, and 50 to 75% of those people got sober. And that's how Alcoholics Anonymous grew to what we know it is today. Okay. But when this book went out, there was no one else around. So a doctor, okay, family member, maybe. Today, I would say, in my experience, that's not relevant. Okay. If it were me, and when I do my 5 steps, I do them with my sponsor. Okay. By the way, I am taking it for granted. I assume that you have sponsors. Okay. If you're in the middle of your 4th step, good Lord, get a sponsor. Okay. Like immediately, please do yourself a favor, get a sponsor. And for me, I like to do my 5th step with my sponsor. I like my sponsees to do their 5 steps with me, because it just lends itself to a level of understanding. And then when you get to steps 8 and 9, and you start to go through the amends, you usually have some idea of the backstory and what's going to happen with these things, okay? And you can understand how may injure them or others may have different impacts because you've heard the 4th and the 5th step and you understand what's going on, okay? Now, I'll tell you, in Calgary, where I live, we're very fortunate because we have a place just outside of town called Mount St. Francis, okay? Like it's a Catholic place. It's a Catholic retreat. I'm not Catholic. Alcoholics Anonymous is not Catholic. We're not religious, okay, at all. But we make use of what they have to offer. And one of the things they have to offer is Mount St. Francis, which has a whole bunch of Franciscan monks who are righteous dudes who have dedicated their lives to accepting the 5th steps of the recovery community in Calgary. Can you imagine? Can you imagine what a beautiful thing that is? So when I did my first 5th step, I did 2 of them, back to back, same 5th step, okay? And I want to tell you guys something. I want to tell you about your humble facilitator tonight, okay? 21 years sober. I want you to understand the level of willingness that I had when I first got to Alcoholics Anonymous. I was about 9 months sober when I did my first 5th step. And I booked an appointment at Mount St. Francis, but it was like weeks away to get into it. And so I was going to go do one with my sponsor, David, early on. And it was for like a Saturday afternoon to go to David's house. And I completely ghosted it. I didn't call. I didn't show up. I completely bailed on myself, on my recovery, on David, on step 5, and on God in that moment. Completely bailed. Why do you think? Because I was terrified. I was horrified. Okay. And it was contrary. Asking myself to go do this was contrary to everything that my ego, my alcoholic self-will wanted me to do. Okay. My alcoholism was screaming at me, convincing me reasons why to not go do this. Okay. I'm an alcoholic, man. I don't confess things. I don't do things like this. And I don't trust anyone. I didn't trust anyone, especially someone who wanted to, hear all my stuff, man. I don't know, no way, man. So I didn't go. And I will never forget the fact that the man that I'm having his birthday dinner with tomorrow night, he came and tracked me down. And he said, Kevin, when are you gonna try something other than your own self-will? Sorry, guys, I didn't think this was gonna happen. But it's hard to explain, like, to anyone who doesn't understand. He changed my life, man. He saved my life. So I need to remember that when my sponsees are scared and I'm losing patience with them, Anyway, I went 6 hours that night. 6 hours I spent with David talking through that. And then I ended up doing it at Mount St. Francis as well. And that one was 6 hours as well. I mean, those men, Father Brian at Mount St. Francis, he's no longer with us anymore. He passed away a while ago, but he and I kept in touch for years and years. I kept in touch with Father Brian because he spent 6 hours of his life, man, gave me 6 hours. The thing is, guys, the most important, the most valuable thing that we can give to other people is our time, man, because I can make more money. I can't make more time. I can fake caring, but I can't fake showing up for people. okay? And the time that I spend with my sponsees is incredibly valuable. Listening to their step fives, valuable for them, but it's valuable for me as well. Like, I've learned more about myself from listening to their step fives, because I can see what's really going on. And I can see the way that this guy is reacting to certain situations. And I can think, man, like, oh, that's how I'm supposed to feel about it. Like, that, what he's going through, you know. I'll tell you guys, one of the things that's happened for me in listening to Fifth Steps is a level of forgiveness for people that harmed me in my childhood that I've never been able to achieve without having done this. Like, if I won't get into details, but you know, a lot of people get to Alcoholics Anonymous with some level of abuse in childhood. I hate to say it's normal. I don't want it to be normal, but it is. In AA, a lot of people get to AA with some level of childhood abuse, okay? And I'm no different, okay? And I can tell you that it was when I was sitting across from a guy who was an abuser. And I was able to listen to him without disgust and without hatred and without telling him to get out of my place and all that kind of stuff, that I was able to, in that moment, finally feel some level of understanding and compassion for the people that had done it to me. And that was really, truly, you know, because prior to that, in step 4, like, I'd done the sick man prayer. You know, I prayed, this is a sick man. God, show me how I can be helpful to him. God, save me from being angry. Thy will not be done. Great. I'd read page 552. I'd said all the prayers. But for me, sitting and listening and seeing the pain in that man's eyes, seeing him cry about what he had done and all that kind of stuff. Now, does that mean that what he did was good and it was okay? Absolutely. I'm going to drop one F-bomb right now. No, I'm not going to. You put it in there for yourself, okay? Absolutely not. Okay, I'm really trying to not curse anymore. Absolutely not okay. But forgiving does not mean condoning. Forgiving does not mean that what happened was okay. It just means I'm letting it go. That's all that it means, okay? Anyway, guys, let's go back to the book. Page 74, notwithstanding the great necessity for discussing ourselves with someone, it may be one is so situated that there is no suitable person available. That is no longer relevant in Alcoholics Anonymous, okay? There is somebody suitable available, okay? You can book it with me. You can book it with Paige online. If you guys know Paige, do a 5th step with Paige. Paige is phenomenal, okay? Paige will sit with you for 12 hours in a row. I don't do that anymore, and we'll talk about it, okay? I'm going to tell you guys exactly what I do when I listen to a step 5, how I do it, and what I've been taught, okay? There are people all over the place. There are people in your home groups. There are people, I will find you someone, okay? I will find you someone. There are people available for this, okay? Then it says, if that is so, the step may be postponed. Only, however, if we hold ourselves in complete readiness to go through with it at the first opportunity, okay? You don't have to postpone anymore. That's no longer relevant in 2022. That's 1939, okay? Again, we say this because we are very anxious that we talk to the right person. I agree with that. It is important that he be able to keep a confidence, that he fully understand and approve what you're driving at, and that he will not try to change our plan. But we must not use this as a mere excuse to postpone. Again, not relevant in 2022. When we decide who is to hear our story, we waste no time. We have written an inventory and we are prepared for a long talk. We explain to our partner what we are about to do and why we have to do it. He should realize that we are engaged in a life and death errand. Most people approached in this way will be glad to help. They will be honored by our confidence. So in our big book, in step 5, that is the only direction that it gives us on how to execute tactically a step 5. Like what okay, it's going to be a long talk. That's all the direction it really gives us, okay? So for years, what I did is just, what I did when I began to receive step 5s. So I'm listening to a step 5 now. My sponsee comes over, we're going to listen to a step 5. And like, I did one, the last one that I did when I thought I have to find another way to do this. I don't have the mental energy to sit for 11 hours. And that's what we did. And I really felt strongly that it needed to be continuous, that we couldn't break it up. It had to be the whole thing. And so I sat with this cat and listened to every nook and cranny of his step 4. Okay, every piece of it. Paige still does that. And I applaud that. I don't have the mental energy for that. So when I do them, and I share this with folks here who might be sponsoring people and might want to be listening to their first step 5s. Anyone, show of hands, anyone online, you can just do the digital hand or whatever. Anybody here ever receive a step 5? Ever listen to a step 5 before? Okay, hey, Sissy, right on. Right on, good stuff. Okay, anybody else? I presume that Steve is raising his hand in the background there. But anyway. Now, today, I just want to tell you tactically how I do, if that's of value to you, okay? I only do them 3 hours at a time, okay? I will book a time, 3 hours, and they know, they're well aware that we're going to do it for 3 hours. We're going to see how far we get. If we need to do another 3 hours after that, we will book it for another day. And another 3 after that, we'll book it for another day. That's how I do it, okay? And that is for self-preservation, okay? I mean, I have a lot of other stuff going on in my life. I have a career. I'm in my office right now, and I have you know, a lot of other stuff going on in my life, and I have a lot of gifts of sobriety is what I have. This is all of the stuff that I have. I'm not boasting. That's not a flex. Okay, this is all as a result of what's happened to me in Alcoholics Anonymous. Okay, I have been lifted up into a life infinitely more satisfying than the best I had ever known. I've been catapulted into the 4th dimension of reality, 4th dimension of existence by the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. Any success I'm having is far more God's success than mine, okay? But there's sometimes a lot to it. There's a lot of work, so I need to break it up. That's what I do. 3-hour increments, usually on a weekend. I'll do like Saturday afternoons, Sunday afternoons, that kind of stuff. And I used to just listen to the whole 4th step. That's what I would do. And one tip that I heard from you know, actually Marty Cosgrove, who spoke, I think he did step 3 here in this session, right, Steve? Marty Cosgrove, Marty's the man. He told me he will only let his sponsees read what they have written. If it isn't written down, they don't get to say it. Because one of the things that'll start to happen is like, you know, you'll hear, well, this next part I need to explain to you before I read it. And then, you know, 20 minutes later, you're still like, oh my God, just listening to the drama of what's going on. Like, no way, man, no way. So I began to feel like I needed a better way to do step 5s and to receive step 5s. And I reached out. Does anybody here know the AA speaker, Scott L from Nashville, Tennessee? Oh, everybody, don't go to sleep tonight without listening to Scott Lee. Okay, Scott L, one of the all-time greats, man, one of the all-time greats, brilliant. And and you guys would know Myers Raymond as well. I think did step 1 or 2 here. Myers is a beautiful dude, man. I've met him in Dallas. I've met Scott up here in Canada a few times. So anyway, I reached out to Scott and I said, Scott, what do you do in your step 5s? And I'm going to share with you what Scott told me to do, how he does them. And I know he does them this way because I did a step 5 with Scott, and this is how he does them. Okay. And then Myers, kind of independently of that, told me that that's how he does them as well. Okay. And some may agree or disagree with this method, but it's what they do. And that was enough for me. Okay. Because our book, again, tactically in the actual operation of a step 5 doesn't tell us what to do. It says we're prepared for a long talk. That's really about it. So I sit down with my sponsee. Also, I'll say, where do we go? Where do we do a step 5? I got this from Clancy. Clancy I is another. Don't go to sleep tonight if you've never listened to Clancy Amazon. Okay, Clancy I, one of my all-time favorites, man. He would go for drives. He would drive. Sponsee would sit at the windshield. They would drive by the ocean. Okay. And Sponsee would talk, Clancy would drive, and that's what they would do. And so I do now, most of the time, I'll do what I call driving 5s. Okay, we get together on a Saturday afternoon, you hop in, and we drive around. And even with the price of gasoline the way it is today. I still do this. Okay. And we just drive around and we might stop. You know, it's fun, man. We drove out, one of my sponsees, we drove out to Banff. Just as God would have it, that day we drove out to Banff, we took a break, ate some nachos, he got back in the car, we drove home. Like, what a beautiful way to do it. Okay. So that's where I will do it. Unless they have a particular place that they want to do it, or they can come over to my place if they want. But I also need to be mindful of my partner, Nikki. Like, she likes to be at home as well. And you know, anyway, so I do them driving. That's how I do them. Then when I sit down to do the step 5, what Scott and Myers told me to do is you start out with this question. The question is simply, I want you to tell me the worst thing you've ever done. That's it. Number 1, tell me the worst thing you've ever done. And the guy will start to tell me the worst thing he's ever done. And the idea is then to tell him some of the worst thing that I ever did, or how I identify with that. You know, I had a guy say, well, I killed some people. You know, he was involved in the mafia in another Montreal. I don't know if you guys have heard of Montreal before, but he was living in Montreal. He was all mobbed up. he killed some people. And then the next thing to do is to ask, okay, let's talk about what defects of character are involved with that worst thing that you ever did. Okay. Well, killing people, I mean, I was selfish and self-centered, but like, why? What was really, I was afraid. What was the fear behind it? Well, I was afraid of what my other mob guys would think if I didn't do this thing, right? Now, I may not know what it's like to take another person's life yet. I've never done that, okay, yet. Okay, but I certainly know. Raise your hand if you've ever been concerned about what other people thought and let that drive you to do something you wouldn't normally do, okay? Of course. We've all done that before. That's alcoholism, dude. Okay, that's alcoholism. And so I understand, and I could let this guy know that I understand. Maybe I didn't let the dog off the leash quite the way he did. Okay, but I can certainly understand the defects. Okay, and it's a funny thing, man. You listen to enough of these, and some guys, there's all varying kinds of degrees on like the worst thing I've ever done. Okay. And then, so he tells you that, and then, okay, so now tell me the next worst thing you've ever done. He tells you the next worst thing he's ever done. You talk about that. What defects of character were involved in that? Okay, well, that I was really inconsiderate and really sick and selfish that I did that to them. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's pretty bad. Here's something that I did similar to that. I understand. Now, tell me the next worst thing you've ever done. And you just keep doing that. You just keep asking this cat the next worst thing you've ever done until he runs out. And it's an amazing thing because that'll take about 45 minutes. And this guy whose life, he thinks he's public enemy number 1, unforgivable. Every horrible, dastardly, nasty thing this guy's ever done, 45 minutes, it's gone. It's not that big a deal, okay? So that's what we do. And that's what I do with my guys now. Tell me the next worst thing you've ever done. And then we talk through the defects. And tell me the next worst thing you've ever done. Talk through the defects, okay? And I've had some that are like, there's some stuff. And one of the things, guys, I'll tell you too, if you're going to receive 5 steps, you have to be prepared. You have to be spiritually prepared. You have to come to it with a heart of compassion and understanding and grace, okay? Because I'll tell you guys, I've heard some, I mean, addiction is a nasty thing, and I've heard some heinous stuff, okay? And the worst thing in the world I could do hearing some of that stuff is react. You're like, oh God, you did that to it, you know, right? No. This is, but what a blessing that it's taught me how to have that level of understanding and compassion and grace for even the very, very, very worst things I've ever heard in my life, okay? Worst things ever. To be able to see and look at this man with love and understanding and compassion, even though he's telling me this stuff. And then for this man to feel, even though he told me this stuff, that he still has my love and compassion and understanding. You know how that transforms people? It's like, have you ever seen a rescue animal when you first get them? And they're like, they're violent and they're angry and they're aggressive and they're terrified. You know, you guys understand what I'm saying? What do? You give that rescue animal some love, and 6 months later, you won't even recognize that animal. Okay. And I'm not calling any of us animals by any stretch of the imagination, but I am saying that it's the same deal. if we can just treat each other with that level of love and understanding, despite the very worst things we've ever done, that's where I have learned forgiveness and I felt forgiven. The first place in my life I ever felt forgiven was Alcoholics Anonymous. Okay. So then I will put these questions into the chat once I'm done. I've got about 5 minutes left here. So these are the questions that Scott Lee gave me. After you go through that, tell me the next worst thing you've ever done. Tell me the next worst thing you've ever done. You just keep going through. Let's talk about the defects of character. Here's some stuff that I did. Okay. It normalizes. We get some level of understanding and compassion for themselves. They start to get compassion for themselves. Now, these questions, okay? And some of these might sound way out there, but I want you to know right now that I have received an affirmative answer to every question on this list, okay? So the questions are, number one, have you ever physically abused someone? Have you ever physically assaulted someone? Have you ever physically assaulted someone? Number two, have you ever taken someone's life? Number three, have you ever committed a crime that went unknown? Number four, do you have any warrants out for your arrest? Number five, have you ever committed a criminal sexual act? Number six, have you ever had sex with a family member? Okay, need to talk about it. If it happened, we need to talk about it. And number seven, have you ever had sexual contact with an animal? Okay, now that might, again, some people are like, what? No. But I'm telling you, I'm going to say again, I've had an affirmative answer for every question on that list. And man, I just take my direction from a guy like Scott Lee. Scott Lee says, those are the questions to ask. Those are the questions I ask. Okay. Myers confirmed them. Myers says, read those. That's what I read. Okay. And who knows, man, you could get to the end and let's say an individual did have something like that on their inventory. Okay. And that's the thing. They're like, I'm never telling anyone. I'm never telling anyone. I'm never telling anyone. That could be the thing that has them locked in a prison of self, the bondage of self that's going to kill them again and again and again. I will tell you guys that the very worst thing that I've ever done, the thing in my life that I was absolutely humiliated about, the thing in my life that I said to myself, never, 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 never am I going to share anyone with that. It was a part of my sex conduct. Yes. And I can tell you that today I am able to use that thing today as a weapon for good to help other men. When I can share that thing with them and let them know, I tell them that and they think, oh man, I don't have anything bad on my sex conduct. This is going to be easy. Ooh. Okay. Okay. And believe me, I'm not boasting. Like, that's not a pretty thing. Okay. So I've got 2 minutes left to go. So it says here, we pocket our pride and go to it. We're back in the book, page 75. We pocket our pride and go to it, illuminating every twist of character, every dark cranny of the past. Now it's going to give us what we call the step 5 promises. Once we have taken this step, withholding nothing, we are delighted. We can look the world in the eye. We can be alone at perfect peace and ease. Our fears fall from us. We begin to feel the nearness of our Creator. We may have had certain spiritual beliefs, but we now begin to have a spiritual experience. The feeling that the drink problem has disappeared will often come strongly. We will feel we are on the broad highway, walking hand in hand with the spirit of the universe. You know, I have a sponsee right now. He's praying because I insist that he pray. Whether he's feeling it or not is irrelevant to me. You keep praying until you feel it, okay? And he's working through the steps like a trooper, 10 minutes every day. He's got his timer 10 minutes every day, guys, okay? And he's a boss, man. He's going through it super, super hard. And I love him for it. But I pointed this out to him. It's in the step 5 promises where it says we begin to feel the nearness of our Creator. Maybe part of the reason why he's praying and not feeling it yet is because he hasn't done his 5th step yet. He's not feeling the nearness of his Creator yet. I can tell you with assurance, I am feeling the nearness of my Creator today, right now, with you. And it is my absolute privilege and joy to have been invited to share this with you today on my experiences with step 5, one of the most meaningful things I've ever done in my life. And if you haven't done one, I'm excited for you. And if you haven't done one, if you need a guy to do it with, you can do one with me. I only do them with men, but you know, any of the women online, I can help you find someone to do it with. Highly, highly, highly. Please just go do one. That's all I've got. Thank you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kevin. That's awesome.